So I'm here with Breck Sweeny in his 1972 2520 diesel synchro.
Diesel synchro, yep.
And she's been here on this farm for...
Since 1972.
Okay. Pretty cool story how that...
Yeah, I'm the third owner of it, but it's never left the farm, I guess. So.
Yeah. So real quick, you're a dairy farmer.
Yep. 60 cows.
Yep. This is... Your grandpa started this farm?
Yeah, I guess I'm the third one with the go-around to dairy in, so I'll probably be the last one, too.
Yeah? You never know.
No, you don't. You don't.
Weird things happen. But
yeah.
At the time when this tractor was purchased, 72, your grandpa was farming by himself?
I believe so. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And we were a Massey farm to start with.
Nobody's perfect.
No. You know, and I remember a couple little Ferguson 20 and a Ferguson 35, and then I don't remember the tractor, but I think there was a Ferguson 65. Don't know if it was gas or diesel. We had a local Massey dealer right in Arkansas, and Grandpa must have had the tractor, the 65, down there getting worked on one spring, summer, I don't remember when, but they weren't getting it back together or up and running fast enough for him, so he must have got mad and went over to Duran Implement and bought this and made them go down to the Massey dealer and pick the other one up in pieces and take it back to their shop and put it together. So I was told. Yeah.
So it was a basket case.
I guess. Like I said, I would have been like 0 then, so I don't remember much from them times.
Well, then your grandpa gets a John Deere. He didn't go back to Massey then, did he?
No. I think everything after that has been all John Deere. Yeah.
So, and this, at the time, this was the big horse then.
Yeah, it was actually. Yes.
So she, I suppose the biggest job, and we forget about that now with today's tillage, but moldboard plowing was...
Yeah, I'm assuming it did all the plowing, the disking, and whatever else it needed to do.
Did it have, you said it pulled, what, a 4/14?
That's the last plow I remember, and I'm assuming that's what was used on it, but I never witnessed it to see. But it actually had, we got a set of, the original rear rubber are on a band set of duals that we had for this tractor, because obviously the farm was wet, and I suppose you needed some duals to work around the mud holes. But,
yep.
yeah.
Well, I bet he felt like he was really big time after having that little Massey to this.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that was quite a step in progress. Comfort.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember what he paid or?
I'm not for certain, but I think I was told that this new was like around $6,800, $6,700. And I thought it was told that a new 3020 at that time was like another $700 or $800 more, and evidently Grandpa didn't figure it was worth the extra $700, so come home with this.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it was, especially in your dairy farming. And
yeah, I mean, I imagine in the beginning they probably had 100 acres of crops, 120, so I mean, it ain't like,
yeah,
you had huge acreage, so I'm guessing he thought it was big enough to do the job that he wanted it to do.
Yeah. So, and at the time, now you replaced the tires, so it's 16.9s, 38s on her now.
Yeah.
But just little 15.5s before that.
Yeah. It actually raised it up quite a bit by putting these taller tires on there, and it made it go a little faster down the road.
Yeah,
too.
I bet. It probably does all right going down the road because the Dubuque engines wind up a little bit.
Yeah,
don't they?
Yeah, well, you got the override there. I mean, it'll really scream.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying that so the tractor's got 4,000 and some hours on it, right?
No, it's just over 5,000.
Over
and
5.
to my knowledge, that's the original tack. So I don't think the tack was ever replaced that I know of. So.
But it did get overhauled once.
Yep, it got overhauled, and that wasn't really all that long. There ain't many hours on the overhauled engine. I bet you there's not 200 hours on it, but it was overhauled probably 23 years ago.
Yeah.
They just don't get used much anymore.
But she got, well, and I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot of hours before, 5,000 hours on the engine, but you guys got 80-foot harvester silos.
Yeah.
Right? And this
was the feed filler for a lot of years.
So blowing haylage up an 80-foot harvester. If you guys don't know anything about harvesters versus a regular silo, your 80 feet is to the top, and you actually go up and over and down into the middle. So it's like blowing up a 90-foot stave silo, right?
Yeah, and it was dry and dusty, and you run the override to do that. It was hard on the. It took all the tractor had to get haylage blowed up the top. There's no doubt.
Run a little warm.
It run warm. Yep. Yeah.
So then this was the big horse until what?
Oh, somewhere in the late 70s. My dad had bought a 4040 open station, and then that become the big horse. And then I think that's when he put the loader. He got a loader, 148 loader for this. So obviously it spent lots of time going ahead and back.
Those are the mounts.
It seemed like you put a clutch and the synchros in the transmission kind of quite regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a handy little size tractor for a loader.
Yeah, obviously later on you bought a skid loader and then never used the loader again, but
yeah.
But at the time, yeah, it was pretty handy.
No, she's been repainted.
I repainted this in probably the early 90s when I was working at Grand Implement. And I painted it over there one weekend and made her look pretty good.
Yep.
But like I said, that was probably 30 years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's 72 model, so I guess I always think, big flashers, 2 big flashers, right? And then the long shift lever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you had the high-low beam.
Oh, yep.
Obviously, I added some extra lights to it because I think the 72s only had
one light
in each fender, and then you had the high-low.
Yep.
High-low beam. But back in the day when eventually we ended up using it for hauling wagons, and of course it seemed like you always chopped. The only time harvester hay went good was in the dark.
Yeah.
So I stuck some extra lights on it one year just to help, and that's why them got there. But I had a heat houser for it. I threw that away. Should have kept that.
Did she haul manure?
It hauled manure in the wintertime, yeah. Yeah, we had no cab tractors. We had 2 open stations, and I think they each had a heat houser on them. This one, the windows got so yellow in it that you couldn't see nothing anyway, but it was a heavy canvas. It was a tough heat houser. They were made to last.
Well, it's better than nothing. I mean, is there anywhere colder than a tractor in the wintertime than?
Well, there probably is, but yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So then you got a cab tractor after the 4040 got traded in on a.
Yeah, that got traded in on a 4050, which would have been the first cab tractor that the farm had. And then that took over the winter manure hauling.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of cab tractors that went on manure spreaders because it's like,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and obviously a first cab tractor, I mean, that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Well, your grandpa probably never saw that then, did he?
No, he would have never saw that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure not. So. Yeah, and then of course around here to get up onto the road, we had to run chains on whatever hauled manure all winter long because the driveway would ice up.
Yep.
Even if there wasn't that much snow, you still had to have the chains on to get the manure out to the road.
Still got a set of tire chains for this somewhere?
Yeah, I think they're up in the shed, probably where the band duels are yet. I'm guessing they're worn pretty thin, but yeah.
So this made you guys a John Deere family then?
I guess. I guess that would be a good way of putting it.
So then your grandpa never bought a bigger tractor than this. This would have been his.
Yeah, this would have been probably the last tractor he ever bought.
So then he was milking cows, then your dad came back to the farm?
Sometime in the mid to late 70s, and my dad come back, and they obviously added on to the barn and
Milked some more cows.
milked a few more cows, built a couple silos, and that's actually the size that's really stayed ever since.
Yeah. Well, one guy can only do so much.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure.
So do you ever, looking back on it now, do you ever wish you guys would have built a freestyle barn and a parlor?
No, I guess when I took over in 2004 or 5, that was kind of the direction I thought I needed to go, but things just weren't in line for it. And I guess now I'm glad I left it the same, or what it is. I didn't need to change it. I didn't want to milk any more cows anyway, so.
Well, and then you lost your dad in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had always wanted to farm. Didn't necessarily want to be tied down to cows. Of course, when I was younger, I wanted to go out drinking and tear around, and
Yeah.
farming just didn't fit in real well with that. So, but then in 2004, I guess I had to make a choice, and I left my job and come home and started doing this, and I guess that's what it's always been.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, me and the wife kind of run the farm together, and that's the way it's been for almost 20 years.
Yeah. When did he die?
In the fall of 2004.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
So you've pretty much been on your own for a long time now, and
Oh yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, he was ill for 6 years before that, and I started milking in 98, so I mean, I guess I've been milking cows here for 26 years.
Yep.
And I did make a deal with him. I bought the cows from him when he was alive or was working on buying them. And I don't know, I guess I just wasn't ready to see the cows go, so I started milking cows.
Yeah. Well, you were saying it was kind of a shame for your dad to go when he did because you worked so hard, because it was tight when he was younger, and
yeah. I mean,
they expanded and added silos and bought land,
and paying for a lot of stuff and trying to make everything go. There were some tough years in there. Obviously, I was young enough, so I don't really think it affected.
Yeah. You don't know it.
Well, right. Yeah.
Well, we all think about farming when we were a kid, and we always go, it was so much better when we were a kid because you didn't worry about the finances.
Yeah, that didn't affect you at all, so you didn't worry about it. But yeah, he survived the 80s and the tough years, made it through. So got to give him credit for that.
So was this probably one of the first tractors you were driving then?
This was probably the tractor that I learned how to drive on. Started out disking and raking hay and stuff like that. So I guess I mastered the difficult shift pattern of
the synchro.
The synchro at a rather young age.
And you do have an International around here, just
I do, yes. Yeah, that was the first tractor I actually ever bought, was that 966, so I needed an extra tractor. It was pretty affordably priced and never looked back.
yeah. But you don't find the Synchro harder to shift than the 966 then?
No, the 966 probably now does a lot of grinding to get that
Yeah.
into gear, but
Yeah. Well, and like as a kid starting out, there was always hay to rake.
oh yeah, yeah,
I mean, there was
yeah, every day all summer long it seemed like.
yeah, because
There was hay to rake and hay to re-rake.
always baling. Did this ever go on square baler?
It done a lot of square baling, probably more so when before my time probably, but because obviously most of the cows were mostly fed by baled hay. you
Yeah.
know. That was their main diet.
Yeah, that's all you would. I mean, all summer long, you just continually hayed.
Yeah. So obviously when the big silo got built, that was a pretty good timing because that just meant us kids didn't.
Have to do as much.
Yeah, we didn't have to bale so much hay anymore.
Still ended up baling a lot of hay and straw, right?
Yeah, I mean nothing like it once was at one time, but
Yeah.
now it's more of a novelty thing.
Yep. So this, yeah, you had a massy chopper too around here back then, right?
Yeah, that's probably the first chopper I ever run was a.
So did this pull that chopper?
I don't remember. I remember the 40/40 chopping hay when I was younger,
Yep.
but I'm assuming this probably did before that, but
What'd they have for a blower that this would run?
it was a 6500 John Deere.
So that was like the Cools shaker
shaker
pan?
pan, yeah.
Yeah, just what'd you have for chopper boxes back then?
Started out with some of them Rex.
The ratchet drive, like they click.
I think so. I think them were ratchet drive. It's been a long time, and I think they were probably only 14-foot boxes, and I think he might have used them the first year of filling the 20x80 and decided, he ain't doing this anymore, and bought some Miller 2150s, which were, worlds nicer to operate.
Yeah. You ever wish you would have bought some 716s though instead?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess. No, not really. Anything was a step above the old worn out Rex wagons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that probably made life a lot better then.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Harvester wasn't as good a news to the 2520 as it was to you guys then.
Yeah.
Now, back then, so what planted corn? Did this or the 4040?
This planted the corn. Well, in the very beginning, it was which I was very little, and I remember a 2-row mounted on a 35 Ferguson. And then at some point, Dad bought a 4-row wide, and then this tractor planted corn for quite a few years until the 6-row, narrow row conversion come around, and then a neighbor started planting the corn for us then, and he's planted it ever since.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was a big deal when everybody started going 6-row. Those 4-row wide planters, remember they got so cheap, you could have bought a nice 7000 for about $1,000.
Yeah.
And now they bring big money because the food plot guys want them.
And need them for deer plots, yeah.
Yeah, so this on a I bet dry fertilizer 4-row wide should bark her a little in the hills.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't old enough for that job at the time, I guess I spent a lot of time sitting on the fender of this thing. Just as much seat time as I had probably fender time
Yeah.
when I was younger, you know. There was a tractor moving out in the field, if I wasn't driving it, I was riding on it.
Yeah. Now, was this the first diesel, you think?
I'm not sure about that first Massey, if that would have been a gas or a diesel, but I'm not sure. So this very well could have been the first diesel.
Yeah. Oh, obviously this was, I mean, a heck of a step up, you know, to get this
No.
big, was a
Big little tractor?
yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, 'cause, yeah, the 2520 is a Waterloo-built tractor with a Dubuque engine.
Duke engine, yeah.
So they're kind of a half step,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny because today, to think about the size of the row crop tractors, the tractors that are sold as row crop tractors, this was the smallest row crop tractor then, kind of at the time. Because
Yeah,
anything smaller would have been what, a utility.
Yep, you're right. Yep.
Because, you know, and that's probably why there were quite a few 2520s around here.
I remember there was a lot of gas.
Yeah.
You seen more of them. There was a few diesels around, but in the 90s, at the Duran Implement, they were into repowering.
Yeah, with the 6400 engines or whatever.
Yeah, and the most of them that ever got repowered were either 2510s
Yep.
or 2520
Gas.
gases.
Yeah. So that, and I think a lot of the reason that there were a lot of them around here was we had smaller farms.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, a 4020 was,
Would have been a big tractor.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up as a kid, there were a lot of farms that their main tractor was a 4020.
Yeah.
So the 2520 was kind of a nice step in between.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think in general, they're one of the lower production of the new generation, but you don't have to look too hard to find one around our area.
No, obviously not as common as a 3020 or a 4020, but
Yeah. But yeah, that, you know, they're pretty cool, especially like this, because they are like a little big tractor. You know, Cliff Meyer pulled one for years.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That was a cool little tractor.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. You know, it's 65 horse probably.
Yeah, because the 3020 is what, 70? Yeah. And I mean, they're a little smaller, but with a diesel,
You know, everything's the hood on these is a little lower. Them side panels are a little
Yep.
shorter than a 3020. Probably the length and all that is probably the same, but
yep.
they were kind of odd.
Yeah.
I think they were the only ones that had that bent
Side
side
panel.
panel on there, which is
Yeah.
pretty hard to.
Yeah, don't bend it, because
Don't
they're hard to get. Are the fenders specific to a 25, or 30-20 fenders work too?
I think them are all 25, 20, 30, 20, 40, 20 are all the same.
Okay.
All the same fenders.
Now, the wheel weights on there, have they been on there since?
No, before I put the different size rubber on there, it had always had fluid in it, and
Oh,
the fluid started leaking and leaked out, and I finally got rid of the fluid and put these other tires on there, replaced a couple rims, and found some rear wheel weights and threw a couple of them on each side.
Yep.
So,
she's one remote,
yep, just one remote.
but it does have a diff lock
Yep.
and the high-low for the dimmer switch.
Oh, yes.
Has it got a cigarette lighter?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
should look at that, because
Yeah. I'm sure my father, he lighted lots of cigarettes with that heater. But of course, that was kind of standard equipment on everything in
oh gosh, yes.
back in them days.
Well, they used to give the GIs and the guys in Vietnam, you know, they just got free cigarettes. So, yeah, there's a cigarette lighter down there. One remote, pull the knob out to go fast, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's the 72 shifter. I think did some late 71s maybe have that same shifter too.
I'm not. I couldn't say for sure.
But yeah, is that the original mat yet?
No, we wore the original one out and replaced that one once. The only problem is the original mat also rotted out the original floor
platform.
pan. Yep, so I had to pick up one of them at a salvage yard one time because obviously they just trap moisture underneath them.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, like you said, dairy in the winter time, this got to see some road salt.
Yeah.
But she's still, all in all, pretty solid.
Yeah, it's actually a very good starting tractor when it's cold too, surprisingly.
Huh.
If it cranks over, it'll pop off.
Yeah. So as a kid, was this, were you pretty fond of this one because it was yours, sort of?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, obviously just because it's been around for as long as I have, it's probably more sentimental. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite tractor, but...
But somehow all these other tractors were traded off over the years, and this one...
Yeah, the smaller one, for some reason,
stayed.
And the bigger ones at the time, eventually always traded them up. But this one...
Well, maybe the sentimental factor is... Maybe even your dad was like, well, if his dad bought it new...
Yeah.
That...
Yeah, which... I mean, obviously, it'll never leave this farm if I have any control over it. I mean, it'll stay here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never get rid of it.
And I guess that's part of the reason for doing some of these videos is this is all history that's going to disappear the same way that history disappeared.
Right.
So we've got something pretty cool that we can still get all this.
Yeah, get information and kind of pass it on or store it or however you want to call it. Yeah.
And, maybe this stuff won't mean much to my kids. Like obviously 50% of my waking hours is spent thinking about tractors at least. Maybe they won't care about that, but at least, that history.
You never know. I mean,
you don't. And we become attached to the stuff that we farmed with. And if you didn't, you probably wouldn't farm.
Yeah, you're right. I'd agree with that.
That if you didn't, maybe there's people out there that have it made that it's easy to farm, but for most of us, farming wasn't the easy choice.
No, it's obviously not easy work, and it wasn't an easy choice, but once it's kind of in your being, it's
yep. Yeah. So it's a good life that way, and I think that's why we get so attached to this stuff. And there's just something about working with, Mother Nature and raising crops and working with your equipment that's special.
Definitely, yes.
I mean, you could probably, I remember the first time driving a tractor a lot better than I remember the first time I ever drove a car. Like it was a bigger deal.
I never really thought about it much, but, I guess I would, did I think about it? I guess I don't remember the first vehicle I ever drove.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, I mean, it's...
I don't.
When you got turned loose with a tractor for the first time on your own,
yeah,
that's a big deal.
It was. Yeah, you thought you were really doing something then.
Yeah. So you and this 2520 got a lot of history together.
Yeah, I can remember some falls, shredding corn stalks with a 205 gyro mower behind this, in 2 rows at a time, across the field. You made no progress whatsoever. And of course, it's the fall and you're cold, and these tractors are kind of They kind of got a little more of a whiny kind of vibration engine to them than a 3020.
Okay.
3020's kind of got a little more of a smoother.
Well, they had a counterbalancer in there.
Yeah, 3020s were a balanced engine, where these are not. It's just a different. It's a different sound.
Yep.
You know, it's a different sound.
But you still enjoyed it when you were a kid.
Well, at the time, I probably, you know, it was fun for a little bit. And
Yeah.
After that,
Oh,
you know, please, can I be done?
Yeah. Yep.
And then they give you the famous saying, you know, just a couple more rounds or a couple more loads, or, you know, the same thing they always told you.
Well, just thinking.
You know,
You know,
when we were haying, it would be hauling wagons. It'd be late at night, and I'd come out with the empty wagon to the field, and how many more loads, Dad? Just a couple more. And if I heard that one time, I heard that a million. And I'm not, to this day, I don't really know what his couple could have meant 3, or it could have meant 15. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, just think of how much work there was to drive tractor back then, because, you know, you were mowing them corn stalks, and then maybe get discs, and then plow, and then you'd have to disc it once or twice.
Yeah. Yeah, you made a lot of trips across the field.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was just a lot of hours. And nowadays, most of it's no-till.
Yeah, I don't till too much up anymore.
So, yeah, just think. You got bigger equipment and way less trips,
Yeah, yeah.
period. So it's kind of changed the way we farm. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I would imagine on the average, by the time a person finally drug a planter across the cornfield, they'd probably already been over that field 4, 6 times already, if not more.
Yep. And now they're just pulling in, no-tilling it, and spraying it.
Yeah, or one pass tillage equipment and
Yeah.
plant, yeah.
So things have changed, but
Yeah, they have, hopefully for the better, but
in some ways. I guess I still wish that was a big tractor and 50 cows was a pretty big farm.
yeah, which doesn't seem like much now.
It doesn't.
No,
But,
it still works though, so.
yeah. Yeah, that's the important thing. So,
Yep.
well, I suppose you got to feed some cows yet.
Yeah, I got to mix some feed for the cows tonight and get that done. I don't have to milk them tonight, but I got to get them fed.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to milk them if you don't feed them.
Yeah, I never looked at it that way, but you're right. Yeah.
A lot less work.
A lot less work. Yeah, it would. That might change the whole game plan right there. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep. And when your dad did come back to farm, is that when the pipeline showed up?
I would have. When the barn got added onto,
That's when
that's when the buckets went and the pipeline got installed, which there again would have been late 70s, early 80s,
Yep.
somewhere in there.
just think they cut their work in half, putting a pipeline in.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, dragging the step saver out in the middle of the walk and
Yep.
carting buckets to that. And
Yeah, between that and open station tractors, farming was a lot harder then.
yeah, you definitely spend a lot more time out in the elements.
Yeah. Yep. But that's progress.
Yeah, now I got the farm is probably, it's cutting edge 1990s technology.
That's all right. I could happily live in the 90s. That's just fine.
Yeah, so if I was farming in the 90s, I'd be the shit.
Yeah. That's all right. Yeah, I still wish silos were cool. To me, they still are.
They are, yes. They can be a pain. They make things handier, but when they don't work, they're problems too, just like anything else.
Yep.
Just like anything else.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we probably rambled on long enough.
Yeah, I better get to work.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Yep, thanks, Ryan.